So in the last section, we stopped about the new approach. So we've tried to look at the problem with the traditional form of education system that we are practicing. We are going to look at the new approach. We have tried to look at the division of value-driven education, right? The education that is in alignment with the economy, the value-driven economy, right? So let us look at the new approach. The new approach. How are we going to approach this human-centered model? So the new approach is a human-centered model, right? So one of the things that we are going to have is personalized learning, right? What is personalized learning? Personalized learning is we create curriculum. We create scheme of work that aligns with personal learners, with the individual learner. So that if a child is learning algebra, if a child is learning calculus, the child is learning calculus because he cares, because he wants to know, right? He wants to know to do. He's not learning calculus because it's in the curriculum. He is learning calculus because he is curious. He is interested. Because learning calculus, understanding calculus will help him to solve a problem, will help him to build a robot, will help him to develop an app. That is personalized. Personalized education is that each individual is learning things that matters to them. Secondly, project-based learning, right? So in this new approach, project-based learning is going to be a part of the curriculum. We are going to approach each subject, everyone, with project-based learning methodology, right? So that if a child is learning any subject, whether it is in art or in science, they come up with project. They are assigned a project to do that will help them to understand that. Remember, first of all, it is personalized. So that if a child is learning something, they are not just doing projects because project is an assignment or project is part of the curriculum. They are doing project because that is the way they can learn and know that subject better. You know, I said in the previous video that children learn how to ride bicycle by riding bicycle, right? Nobody learns how to ride bicycle by reading a textbook about bicycle, by reading a journal about bicycle, or by starting with drawing a bicycle, or starting with reading about history of bicycle, or trying to name the part of a bicycle. You learn how to ride a bicycle by riding a bicycle. So project-based learning is predicated on the principle is that humans learn by doing, right? You learn by doing. You know, the problem we are having in our part of the problem we have in the way we do education, the way we do schooling, is that we want children to learn. You know, I don't know. We somehow believe that children will learn stuff just by memorizing facts, just by a teacher standing in front of them and dishing out facts. That is not effective, right? It's not effective. Like I mentioned, you don't learn about polymerase chain reaction, right, by just reading a textbook, by reading about it, right? You learn PCR by you read the theory, then you do the practical, right? You read about polymerase chain reaction, then you come to a lab where you have the PCR machine and you work with it. You practicalize it. That is the only way you can learn PCR machine. You can just like we did in school, we were taught about PCR machine, right? All the enzymes that are involved, the steps that is involved in polymerase chain reaction. But if you give us a reagent and give us samples and ask us to work on this sample, this is a PCR machine, we don't know what to do, because we were not learning by doing. Our learning was not by project. It was not project based. Even the project we did final year, it was just a way for us to because the project has its own grade, right? So you have to pass the project so that you have your grades, your GP is not affected. So we are not doing the project because we wanted to solve a problem, because we wanted to understand something. We were doing the project because now it is time to do projects. So you have people that come out of universities, they have certificates, and they are somehow mentally how will I put that? They are somehow paralyzed in coming up with solutions, because the education we are giving to them was just for them to know and pass exams, and we give them certificates. But if we begin to learn and teach kids with this approach, project-based learning, you find that it becomes, number one, it becomes more interesting, right? So the learning is no longer passive. It becomes more interesting. Do you know why some children find courses like basic technology to be boring? Because they don't know how to apply these things. I remember when we were in junior secondary school, you'll be teaching us woodwork, orthographic drawing, all those things. And we are like, our brain is trying to make the connection between what you are teaching us to how we can use this thing in real life. And we can't make that connection. We are bored. So project-based learning helps us to make connection between learning and doing. And like we said, humans will learn. We learn effectively by doing. Secondly, this approach will emphasize mastery over measurements, right? It will emphasize mastery over measurements. The way we are doing education, the way we are doing school, we emphasize measurements over mastery. So somebody can get A in mathematics, but they have not mastered that. Somebody can get A in algebra. Somebody can get A in calculus, but they have not mastered that. But if somebody is going to master a course, a topic, a subject, it has to be, number one, they are interested in that. Secondly, they approach the learning project-based learning with project-based, right? They are doing project. Now, project doesn't have to mean that you are building robots, right? It doesn't have to mean that. It means that they are doing something that is practical, that is related to that, right? Children can be learning about leadership or teamwork in civic education then they are given projects to form a team and to solve a problem, right? Or to form a group, a social group that, come together and solve a problem in the society. So that way we try to make a connection between the values we are teaching them in civic education and in real life. So they see the practically. When they come up with challenges, you can address that. But if you just based on theory, they don't learn. The learning does not go deep. And by that, they don't get to master that. They can pass, but they are not master. They don't master. And we need mastery, right? You need an engineer that is good, that is an expert. Not just somebody that has the degree. Because measurement base is actually aimed at degree, right? So that you can have a first class student of engineering, but they can't fix anything, right? Yes, because to become a first class person in most Nigerian universities, you don't need to do a lot of projects. You don't need to solve practical problems. You don't need to have a portfolio of problem solutions you have built. You just need to have passed most of your courses, get a lot of A's. Number 4, in this new approach, we want to emphasize mentorship and apprenticeship. Mentorship and apprenticeship. Mentorship is children are paired with people who are doing the kind of things they want to do, and they coach them, right? They mentor them. And it helps to create that connection between what they are learning to what is obtainable, to what is happening in society currently. And that also helps, right, to update what we are teaching. Because information expires. Information gets old. Information gets outdated. They used to tell us that beans beans is a proteinous food. When you go to some schools, some teachers are telling children that beans is a proteinous. It's not true. That if you don't eat beans, you will not grow. Right? So information is changing. When you pair children, when you pair learners with mentors, with people who are practicing who are already doing what they want to do in future, it helps to create that connection between what they are learning to what is obtainable. Apprenticeship. Apprenticeship is more like internship, right? Where children are paired. We collaborate with industries, right? With factories, with companies. And children go and they sit and work hand in hand with professionals so that they can learn. You make that connection. It makes mastery possible. It makes the learning more interesting. So for what I'm doing is more like a clarion call, right? I don't have all the answers, but I think we need to start asking the question: the way we are doing education, is it making sense in terms of what is obtainable in society today, right? In terms of the economy, in terms of the socio-economic system that is present today, the curriculum we are teaching, does it still make sense? For school owners, let us build models that reflect today's realities, not yesterday's demand. For teachers, let us see beyond grades. Let us position ourselves as adults that sees the children. Let us become mentors to these children, right? Let us become the kind of teachers that sees the potential in these kids, even though they are getting 0 in mathematics. Let us be the kind of teachers that sees and acknowledge that every child is a genius, every child is brilliant, every child is intelligent, so that we can help them to become great people. We can help them to identify their area of interest, right? And we encourage them and we challenge them to do amazing things. For parents, let's not just raise factory workers. Let's not just raise people that just have information in their head, right? Let us raise builders, dreamers, and creators. Because the truth is, parents play an important role when it comes to, making a shift in terms of education, right? So that as parents, you don't just emphasize on the grades, right? You also look at other things, because education is empowerment of the whole human being. So you don't just look at papers, you look at values, you look at characters, you look at my child, is he becoming more inquisitive? Is he becoming more curious? Are they mastering the courses, the subjects? What projects are they building? Right? The things they are learning, are they the things that matters to them? And to everyone, we need to be brave enough to start asking the question, what exactly is school for? The curriculum we are teaching children in school, how relevant are they? The goal of education is not to make kids valuable to the system, right? It is to help kids become valuable to humanity. The purpose of education is not to help kids to become valuable to the system. That is the way we have been doing it starting from the Industrial Revolution, right? The purpose of going to school then was to make kids, was to raise people who are valuable to the system, right? To the capitalist system. But today, we need to be raising kids, right? The purpose of education, which has been, because education is not schooling, the purpose of education is to help kids to become valuable to humanity. And I believe that this talk will spark something in somebody out there, whether you're a parent or you're a teacher, to make a shift, to start asking the question. And in time, we are going to see this revolution happen. And we together, we are going to create a future that our children will like. We are going to have schools that no longer emphasizes grades, but emphasizes on the whole development of a child. Thank you for listening, and I want to encourage you, if you have questions, I want you to put it down in the comment section and I will respond. Thank you.